when you're designing games, you want to be really, really sure about the kind of experience that you want to give, because that's going to make or break the game. But what if I told you that there is a set of mechanics that you can specifically use to elicit the specific kind of emotion that you want? In this video, I'm going to be sharing the top mechanics that I recommend for driving the kind of emotion that you want in your games. Let's dive in. Welcome to this ranking video where I'm going to be talking you through the top board game mechanics that you can use to drive emotion. This is going to be split into multiple parts. This part, we're going to be looking at mechanics from 25 to 21. The way I did this was I went into Board Game Geek, got a list of all the mechanics, and then I used the ranking engine to rank them in descending order. All right. Let's dive in. At number 25, we have targeted clues. This is where you're giving clues to your team, and there is a bit of hampered communication. Maybe you're limited by the number of words, maybe you're limited by the accuracy, maybe you're limited by what are the words that you cannot say. And that gives all the fun that is out there because your players are trying to figure out, what could they actually mean? Gets them thinking. Games like Taboo, Dixit, and Codenames are great examples where these kind of clues are given and players have to decipher them. At 24, we have events. This is where random stuff is happening because of stuff that's popping up in a card, because of dice rolls, or because of something that has been preordained as a tracker is moving across the board. And players know that something is coming, so they are going to be changing their gameplay to suit that. And this also leads to a lot of great emotion because players are increasingly getting more and more stressed because something is coming, or they're getting increasingly happier because they know that it's going to end soon. Whatever the case, that anticipation of something that's coming makes it a great mechanic for you to use when you're trying to drive emotion. At 23, we have engine building. Engine building is where you are trying to build a system that is creating a self-perpetuating, self-reinforcing loop that is going to be giving you resources or benefits or points in some way. The beautiful thing about this is as players are building systems, they are going to be thinking a lot more about how this is going to pan out a couple of rounds down the line. The magic of this comes in because our brains are not used to thinking in exponential terms. And many a times when you have engine building experiences, they are often exponential in nature. And when players see that, they'll be like, oh my God, this is so cool. Or there's a runaway effect, or, oh man, they got to, build their engine before I did, and it didn't work out too well. And I love this as a mechanic because it really, really keeps you engaged in the game. And it also provides like two ways for you to interact with the game. One part is to build the engine itself, and the second is to deploy the resources that the engine generates. And this kind of dual layered thinking adds a lot more engagement to any sort of a game that you're building for players. At 22 is the take that. I'm not a big fan of this mechanic, but it is there because it does work. This is literally when you are doing something to hamper an opponent. Let's say they have to pick up all the cards on the table, or it's like the +4 in the Uno. When you're using take that, there is a direct aggression that is happening between one player and another. And whenever that happens, ego comes into play, emotions come into play, and of course, a lot of fun comes into play. At 21, we have the market. The market is where there are a bunch of different things that are available for people to buy or to acquire, and the prices change based on supply and demand. The game Power Grid does this in the most beautiful way ever, where there are a finite number of resources available, and as you take them, the prices go up and up and up. Of course, other games such as Clank also offer a market row of cards, so does Dune Imperium. And what happens in these games is that the prices is not fixed. However, when you have a market in play, it adds a lot more emotion to the whole experience because players are like, okay, so not just do I have to think about what I'm going to be taking, but I have to be aware of what the other person's taking and how that's going to be modifying my experience. Now, you might be thinking, oh, wait, this is just extra complexity. No, it's not just extra complexity. It is definitely a layer of additional thinking that's involved, but it also makes people start thinking a lot more about consequences, makes them start thinking about how the game could plan out in terms of not just first order thinking, but second order thinking as well. And when players are getting a lot more engaged with a system like that, with a game like that, your emotions are starting to ride high. There we have it. Those were my mechanics from 25 to 21. In the next video, you're going to be seeing the mechanics 20 to 16. All right. Now, a word of caution or word of recommendation, if you will. These are mechanics, and mechanics alone do not make or break the experience. They're definitely an important part, and they shape the experience to a massive degree. But there are other components that go into making the experience what you want. Mechanics are one part, but then the way the mechanics affect the gameplay, that's the dynamics. And of course the aesthetics, the environments and the arts and then the beautiful stuff, the setting that you put your game in, that also affects the gameplay. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this is these mechanics are great if you're building out your own games, your own educational games for game-based learning, whatever the case. You have to be aware of the tools at your disposal. I'm hoping that by watching this video, you would have benefited. All right, I will see you in the next video.